Hi, this is David Newton speaking. Today we're going to be talking about headline hacks with my mate Scott Bywater, who's here in Wollongong. I'm right here in Wollongong right now. Say hello, Scott.
Hey David, hey everyone, great to be here.
Scott, why is a headline really important for your ads?
Hey David, main reason a headline's really important for your ads is because a headline is like an ad for an ad. So I think it was David Ogilvy who once said, like a headline can make your ad get up to 17 times as much readership just by getting that right. So it's a sort of thing that you just can't overlook, because it doesn't matter how good you can obsess over your ad copy, get it perfect, get everything rolling, but if you don't have the right headline, if you don't have the right hook, you're not going to get nearly as many people who actually read it. And this applies, it doesn't matter if you're doing social media posts, if you're advertising Facebook ads, if you're doing Instagram, if you're doing LinkedIn, if you're doing YouTube. In YouTube it's like that first 5 seconds in your YouTube ad which really matters. That's why you've got to get that right in order to get the maximum attention for everything else that you're doing. It's sort of like having, if you can imagine, you've got this shop and you fit out a shop and you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars fitting out this shop, and you're on a main road and you don't put any signage on it, or your signage looks really ugly or slack or any of those sort of things, then it's such a waste for everything else that you've created, because you just haven't gone to that little bit of an extra effort to then go and put a really solid headline on top of that so it actually gets the attention it needs.
That's great, Scott. Now, the obvious question is, how does this work for email marketing? Over to you.
So with email marketing, Dave, it's the subject lines, right? And the subject lines and the opening line is really the key thing. I've actually had a lot of testing with email marketing, because I've got one client that I've been working with over the last 15 years, and they've got an email list of about 2 million plus. So I would have done, over that time, I would have done about minimum 300 headlines a year. Minimum 300 headlines a year. So that would work out to like 4,500 different sets of headlines that I'm spending about half an hour on each.
What's the product that you're helping market here? What would that be?
Yeah. So this is for a health company that we're doing this for. So they've got a massive list, a couple of million. And then seeing the actual split test results of that, so you're seeing what works, what doesn't. It's probably the best learning you could possibly get in many ways. And you'll often see that same article, same everything, but one headline just makes it pop. You might get, let's say, they're doing, you might get a 50-60% bump just from the headline.
Wow!
Just through doing that in terms of the open rates, right? So
do they sell like particular products, or do they have events occasionally, or what's the year makeup if you're doing this all year round?
They're just different articles in this case. So they're getting their articles read, and then they do have products. They've got a whole swag of supplements and different products that they actually sell on the back end. So subject lines really critical. There's one 4-letter word which I've found works better than anything in a subject line or a headline.
And what would that be?
I'll tell you. Ask me about that later, and I'll tell you what it is, and I'll explain why. I'm making you wait later, but the whole thing with the headline. So what you can do in terms of the way that I do headlines is I use a tool called Scrivener.
Yes.
And on one side, which is actually a tool, that's probably why you know it, Dave.
Yeah,
because it's
being an author. Yeah.
It's for novel writers, right? But I just got this intuition one day. I thought, I'm a copywriter, but I just got to learn this tool. And so I got in there and I learnt it, and I'm like, it's brilliant for writing headlines, because on one side you can cut the screen up into two, and then on one side of the screen you have the article, let's say the ad that you've just written, and then what you can do is you can go through that, because often what you'll find is a headline is stuck 75% of the way deep into the copy, right? So you can go through it, and you can actually go in there and you take little sections of it, and then probably easy to explain this on like a screen share, right? But you can pull this across and you do little cards on the other side within Scrivener. So you've got one article and you've got 20 cards, right? And then you write the headlines then off the cards. You're pulling the headlines across, and then you get this. There's one that the whole thing with headlines, subject lines, whatever they are, if you write, the more you write, the better they're going to get, right? What I like to do, if it's a proper sales piece, like it's something that's really going to move the needle, you probably wouldn't do this if you're doing it to an email list with 100 people, right? But if it's a proper sales piece, you really want to run at least 20 headlines, right? And then you pick the best one that really pops out of it, because if you've got a decent list and you're doing email marketing, like I can remember a launch I did years ago, and this followed up from a launch failure, right? Because this is years ago. I bought when I was just starting out with the product launch formula. Right? So I did a launch with my list, and I cookie cutted it. I did it very, 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 very simple, probably cookie cutted it too much. It didn't work that well. But then the next one I did was with a client. They had quite a large list, and we did and it was in the weight loss space in that case. And we did a launch, and I did the research on it, which is critical for the whole process of.
But you really got yourself emotionally into it and really connecting with what the topic was about.
The topic, and most important, the audience, right? Understanding the audience
point.
At a really deep level. That's number one, because it's a whole thing of, like, as Robert Collier says, entering the conversation going on in the prospect's mind.
Now I've heard that term come up before, but that makes a lot of sense. It's funny doing these interviews at what confirmation you get. Yes. Good point. Very good point. I've had to travel over 100 kilometres to hear this again. Yes. So when you enter the conversation that's going on in the prospect's mind, and then we built the email launch based on that, and that was a very, very successful launch as a result of doing that. And the more you understand what's going on in the customer's mind, the more you can write the headline. So, for example, if we're chatting now, David, and I all of a sudden find out, just on a one-on-one level, that you're suffering from back pain, right? And I can then say, and then if I know that, I can write a very specific headline to you that will grab your attention. Touch this pressure point on your hand and your back pain will disappear. And that's probably going to grab you. But if I said your knee pain or your headache or something like that, and you're not suffering from it, then it'll bypass me altogether. But when you talk about lower back pain,
and that's another distinction, right? I don't know if you have back pain or you don't.
I do. My lower back, I occasionally, not as much as I used to, but yes, if you wrote something about that, I would be definitely reading it wall to wall.
And this is where the research component comes in to headlines as well, right? Because if I do that research and I know that, and we're talking on a one-on-one level, right, with you with lower back pain. So if I write about lower back pain, I've got you, right? But if you research your list, and there's a specific survey process I do when I reach out to prospects. But if you research your list properly and you find out that, and whenever you do this research process, you always find out something like interesting, right? That you wouldn't have thought of, even if you run the business.
You get some aha moments, so to speak. Is that it?
Yeah, you get the aha moment. So then, if you know that and you go, 75% of my clients suffer from lower back pain, well, instead of trying to go, buy this vitamin, you go, this vitamin, I mean, you got to obviously be careful with regulatory requirements and all that. So taking that out of it though,
Yeah.
and just for the point of example, but this vitamin makes back pain disappear.
Yeah.
Bang, grabs your attention, right? So you can spin the headline any way you want, because that vitamin, let's say, or your book or your course or whatever we're referring to, it might do a dozen different things.
Yeah.
So you want to angle it to where your prospect's greatest problem is. So you angle it towards that greatest problem, which in this case is back pain or headaches or whatever, and it's really, really powerful. Now, if you want to take this to a new level, right, and get really high tech, you can find out that there's, let's say, 4 major problems that people are coming back. So you do the deep dive survey, you find there's 4 major problems.
All right.
And then when they come into the funnel, so instead of going, so let's say you offer a free report on how to improve your health.
Yeah.
And then you can say, what's the number one thing that you suffer from? Back pain, headaches, neck pain, knee pain, whatever it is.
All right.
Okay?
Like a little multi-choice to zero down on one specific issue or 1 or 2 specific issues. Yeah.
So then you've got 4 different funnels, right, which are each targeted. So you've got, okay, I go into the knee pain funnel, or I go in, like my dad, he's got knee pain, right? So he's going to respond to knee pain, but not to back pain necessarily. Whereas you're gonna respond to back pain.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So you guys are getting 2 different funnels.
Completely different email series. Yeah.
Which is where the relevancy is, right? Because copy and headlines and everything, it's all 100% about relevancy.
Right.
You get the relevancy right, and everything shifts. And that's why that campaign was able to bring in so much. And that's why, I've done other, I think we did for one client, we did 8 6-figure campaigns in a row. And it was all based on that same methodology of understanding the target market on a really deep level. And something else to keep in mind here too, Dave, is you don't necessarily need a big email list. So people are under this assumption that you need a really big email list to make it work. So for example, I've got a colleague, and he does a lot of joint ventures with his with his lists, and meaning he sells something and other people will promote their lists.
Right, yep.
And then he'll run webinars and he'll promote them. So anyway, he's done ones where they've got thousands on their list and no sales come out at the end.
Wow.
Then he did one. He had one guy. He sent an email. He might have sent a few emails, but to 33 people. 8 people registered for the webinar. 5 people turned up. 4 people bought.
Wow.
At $3,000 product, and $12,000 was generated from 33 people.
Wow.
So you've got this where it doesn't need to be like, you don't need to have a massive list. What it is you have to have quality. Now I found the same thing, Dave, like years ago. I did a list, I did a launch, and I made 42 sales at $1,000 to a 7,000. I think it was 7,000. Might have been 7.5, but it was around 7,000 list. Right? I thought, that's nice. And then I went through and I thought, I'll just dissect and I'll have a look at who actually bought. And 32 of the people who bought, so 80%, came from a paid subscribers at the time, which was about 180 or 200 in terms of paid subscribers. So I got 80% of my buyers from 200 and 20% of my buyers from 6,800.
Wow.
So it's not about necessarily don't fall into the myth of going, I don't have a big list, so then I can't send any emails. It won't work for me. It's about the quality of your list. And how do you have a quality list? Well, in the case of the 33 we were giving before, he had a quality list just from the sake of they were his clients and all that sort of thing, and he just had a really strong relationship with them.
But obviously the relationship does have a bit of power in this case here, but if you connect with the ones you do have a relationship with, then that's power on power there, because the multiplier effect really has significance, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So that's really, really powerful. Now, the other thing to keep in mind here is I've got another, another really good thing to keep in mind in terms of the quality of the lists and getting the quality leads coming through is there's this book called They Ask, You Answer. And what he found was, you might have heard of that one.
No, but still continue on.
Yeah. So what he found was that if someone, like he was selling swimming pools, and he found that the average conversion rate in that industry, like in a face-to-face sales meeting, right, was 10%.
Okay.
But if they'd absorbed 30 or more articles, and he was doing blog posts at the time, but the same applies for video or emails or anything like that.
Yeah.
The same concept applies. He said, and they rocked up to a sales meeting, the conversion rate was 80%. So it's 8 times higher. Why? Because they'd read relevant articles which were relevant to them.
Yeah.
So they had more knowledge before they had the sales meeting. So, and he said there was one guy, and he'd read like 400 articles, like he'd read everything on his website. So he was able to track it because he used a technology, I think it's a HubSpot CRM, and that was able to track it. And he said that guy didn't even ask any questions. He just signed on the dotted line, for a swimming pool. So
he was already ready.
Yeah. He was already ready, which flips the sales game, because in the past, the leverage was all in the, like you called up, at the Yellow Pages, you met with 5 salespeople, and the best salesperson generally got the job, right? Whereas now the salespeople don't even get the call.
Yeah.
In many cases, because people are doing their research online and through referrals and networks and all of that sort of thing is where that's.
We kind of live in an age of the educated buyer.
Yes.
These
100%.
days, it's like I find with, like some of the events that I've run, people will come along and they've been following these emails from me for a whole year. I'll put up pictures, we had a good time at this, we had a good time at that. The next thing you know, they'll book like about 5 events all in one hit and prepay some of them because some of them are over a certain value because they've been watching all this stuff for months.
Yes.
So would that be the same sort of thing we're talking here? Yeah.
Yeah, and it applies to anything, right? So it applies to YouTube, applies to LinkedIn, like the content, people are all over the place. So whether they're on Facebook, LinkedIn, email, YouTube, like wherever they are, they're absorbing your content. They're getting trust. I mean, I know I've gone to met people at events, never met with them in their whole life, didn't even really know them, but because I'd seen them on video so many times, there was like this instant connection, right? Where you're just like, it's just like it speeds up that.
So
that
Chip, I've been watching you on YouTube for the last 5 years. Where do I sign?
Yeah, exactly. So you've got this trust, this real trust that gets built as a result of doing all that. So that's a really just something to.
So what is this magical 4-letter word that you keep talking about that you use that works so well?
4-letter word is something I discovered. Because like the client who's got the 2 million email list that I've been writing subject lines for like 15 years, and I noticed that when I was writing, I kept using this word like really often, and it wasn't something I really learned from anyone or learned from a book or anything. I just noticed this is really used a lot, and as you're listening, you're probably going through your head like bouncing around words, and it's probably not what you're thinking. And the reason I leave offering this 4-letter word until the end is because what I've done in the beginning is I've created an open loop in your mind, right? So an open loop is a very powerful, marketing tool, and you'll see that used by virtually every morning show, virtually every TV show. It's like they leave you on a cliffhanger. Create an open loop in your mind so you've got to come back for the next thing. So that's exactly what this word does in your headline. So, and the word is this. Okay, so this creates an open loop. Okay, so let me give you an example. If I say the best way to lose weight is to ride a bike. If I say that, I'm sure it's not, by the way, I'm just using it as an example. But if I say that, I give everything away, right? Whereas if I say this is the best way to lose weight, or this wheel-based exercise is the best way to lose weight, all of a sudden you're like,
you've created curiosity by the word this.
Yes.
Blah, blah, and then you still haven't told them what it is, or the bike riding. So this technique or this hack is what you need to get blah, blah, blah.
Yes. Yeah.
Fascinating. I love that.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so it's one word, it's not hypey or anything like that. You could use it.
So simple it's almost invisible.
So simple it's almost invisible. Exactly. It's really, really simple. So and as you can see, you've got to if you're interested in that topic, like this is the best way to eradicate lower back pain. Yeah, if you're interested in that topic, you're going to want to do it, and it doesn't need to be a hypey headline at all. So that's really, really a powerful tool to use in your toolbox.
Well. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been direct response copywriting for over 20 years now, and I've worked with some of the I guess the leading direct marketing companies in Australia and also internationally. Including like Knowledge Source, who John Gian runs, and promotes people like Dimpner Boholt and Mark Rolton and all of that sort of thing. Had clients like your Jim's Mowing, work with Kerwin Ray. Overseas, I've worked with Macola.com, the Learning Annex, companies like that. So a lot of the top direct response companies, as well as hundreds of other business owners and that sort of thing, all over the country. Particularly working with a lot of builders right now. Interestingly.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, so that's who I am. I've done. I also run one of the leading groups for marketers in Australia called Elite Marketers.
Oh, great!
And and I've done. I would have generated millions and millions of dollars for my clients over the years through through the copywriting side of things. So.
Wow, yeah, that's really good. And I suppose living down here at Wollongong, you're away from all the noise and humdrum of Sydney CBD, and you're able to think a lot more clearly about your writing.
No, it's great. I mean, I moved here 16 years ago now, so because my wife's from Wollongong.
Oh, right.
And we were living up in Potts Point in Sydney. So so it took a while to get used to when we moved down here. So that was where my son was born. But we love it. It's great. It's easy to get around everywhere, and it's a bit quieter than the hustle and bustle of Sydney. So
that's perfect. Look, so what's this particular report that you've got that you are giving away free to my viewers?
Yeah, thanks, David. So the report I've got, and the example I just gave with this headline is actually featured in the report, and it shows more examples of exactly how to use it. But that's just one of the headline hacks. There's actually 101 headline hacks in this report, and I'm not sure how long I'm going to keep it available for. Eventually, I want to turn it into a coffee table book. So if anyone
Perfect.
wants that, and they're as one of your viewers, they can.
So we'll have the
download
links
it.
we'll have the links below in the description box. Yep. And they can simply join up there, and off they go. Okay.
No, exactly.
Thank you once again, Scott, for being here for the interview about how to improve your marketing. And these are the skills you do need to learn. So Scott will be appearing in other future episodes. In the meantime, this is David Newton speaking with Scott. And remember to please like and subscribe so you can get a hold of more content like this that we put out all the time. This is David Newton speaking. Bye for now.